Hi traders and developers, welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to show you a powerful tool called MLEngine, a universal machine learning engine that helps you filter and improve your trading signals directly inside NinjaTrader 8. We will go through what it does, how it behaves on the chart, all the key settings you can control, and how it connects to an automated strategy. And at the end I will briefly explain how developers can plug this indicator into their own NinjaScript strategies. What is MLEngine? MLEngine is not a standalone entry strategy. Think of it as a smart filter and forecaster that sits on top of your existing signals. You feed it a base signal, for example a simple moving average crossover, a price action pattern, or any other indicator output. MLEngine then observes how the market behaves around those signals, learns from the recent history, and for each new signal decides whether it is statistically strong enough to pass. The output is very simple. When the engine agrees with your base signal, it returns a directional value for long or short. When it does not like the setup, it simply outputs 0 and your strategy can choose to stay flat. On the chart you can also see the current ensemble probability and, if you wish, a detailed metrics table that describes how well the models have been performing recently. Parameters, Ensemble Models Group. The Ensemble Models group lets you choose which machine learning algorithms are active. Each item here is a separate model type, you can think of them simply as different opinions about your signal. You can enable one model, or several at once to form a true ensemble, and with auto weights the engine automatically gives more influence to models that show better metrics. Parameters, Feature Params Group. The Feature Params group controls how the engine builds its internal inputs from market data and from your base signal. Here you can adjust how VWAP slope and cumulative delta are measured, how far price is from VWAP bands, what ATR and MACD settings are used as context, how session gaps are detected using your trading hours template, and how far back in time the engine should read your base signal via the signal offset bar setting. These options do not change your strategy rules directly, but they let you tune which aspects of price, volume, volatility and session structure are most important for the model on a given instrument. Parameters, MLEngine Group. The MLEngine group contains the core behavior switches. Enable logging turns debug logging on or off. Show metrics table and show probability control whether you see the ensemble statistics and per bar probabilities on the chart. Use metrics filter and the min AUC, F1, accuracy, precision and recall thresholds let you block signals when model quality drops below your standards. Use auto weights lets the engine automatically give stronger models more weight. Min probability, bars ahead and records before retrain control how strict the probability filter is, how far into the future outcomes are measured, and how often the engine retrains as new labeled data arrives. Parameters, ML Metrics Filter Group. If you want an additional safety net, the ML Metrics Filter group lets you define minimum levels for AUC, F1, accuracy, precision and recall. When Use Metrics Filter is on, the engine only allows signals to pass if the current aggregate metrics stay above these floors, so you can automatically pause trading when the models stop performing well enough. Parameters, Table Style and Probability Style. Finally, the Table Style and Probability Style groups are purely visual. Here you choose where the metrics table appears, which font and colors it uses, and how opaque the background is, as well as the font, color and vertical offset for the probability labels so that they are easy to read on your chart theme. How MLEngine works in practice. Now let us briefly summarize how the indicator behaves in real time from a trader perspective. First, your strategy or indicator produces a base signal. On a live chart this can be any indicator or setup that you use as a base filter, for example a crossover of two moving averages, a price action pattern, or another custom condition. When your base logic points to a potential long, the signal becomes positive, when it points to a potential short, the signal becomes negative, and when there is no setup, the signal stays at 0. You can plug in any custom logic that outputs +1, -1, or 0. MLEngine continuously watches the market around these base signals. It builds features from VWAP, cumulative delta, volatility, MACD, session gaps, and the direction of the signal itself. For gap-related features the engine relies on your trading hours template, so that the session open and close are taken from the correct regular session and the gap is measured in a realistic way for your instrument. Using these features it trains and updates its ensemble of models on the fly for the current instrument and timeframe. On each new bar, when the base signal is flat, the engine simply outputs 0 and stays neutral. When the base signal is long or short, the engine calculates an ensemble probability and checks it against your min probability threshold and, optionally, the quality thresholds from the metrics filter. If all conditions are satisfied, the engine outputs a directional value that matches the base signal. If not, it outputs 0 and effectively vetoes that trade. From your strategy point of view this is very simple. You check the engine output. If it is greater than 0 you can treat that as a potential long condition. If it is less than 0 you can treat that as a potential short condition. If it is 0 you skip the trade. Order sizing, stop loss and profit target placement, and exit rules are still fully controlled by your own strategy code. Visual elements and how to read them. On the chart, MLEngine exposes several visual pieces of information. First, there is the main plot called ML signal. It is drawn as a bar-style series and reflects the directional output of the engine. Positive values correspond to approved long signals, negative values correspond to approved short signals, and 0 means no active signal from the engine. You can overlay this series on your price panel to see where the engine confirms or filters out your base logic. Second, you can enable the probability labels. When this is turned on, the indicator prints the current probability near the bar, for example as a percentage above or below the candle depending on the vertical offset you choose. This helps you quickly see how strong the current setup is according to the ensemble, even if your strategy logic just uses a simple threshold. Third, you may choose to show the metrics table. This table appears in the corner of the chart you select. It lists the latest aggregate metrics for the ensemble and, when available, individual metrics for each enabled model type. If you see that some metrics are not displayed in the table, that simply means there is not yet enough historical data to calculate them, and this usually resolves itself once you load or trade more bars of history. This is useful both in research and in live trading to monitor if the models are still performing within the ranges you expect. Together, these visual elements give you transparency into how the auto strategy makes decisions. Important remarks for traders. There are a few practical points to keep in mind when using MLEngine. First, the engine is specific to each instrument and environment. It stores its own training data and model files per instrument, and it learns only from the signals you actually feed it. If you change your base logic, you should give the engine some time to collect new records and retrain. Second, the quality thresholds in the metrics filter are a powerful way to protect yourself from overfitting or regime shifts. If you notice that performance metrics degrade, you can tighten these parameters so that trades are blocked until the ensemble relearns and improves. Third, remember that MLEngine is a filter and forecaster. Position sizing, risk management, and exits remain under your control. You can combine this engine with your own stop and target logic, trailing mechanisms, or higher time frame filters. Availability, ASF pack, and documentation. MLEngine is available as part of the ASF pack. The pack includes a 14-day trial period so you can test the indicator on your own instruments and setups before committing. You will find the download and more details in the link in the video description. There is also full documentation available through the link in the description. At any time you can open the docs, review parameter explanations, and see integration examples. If you are watching this as a trader, you can stop here. In the next section I will briefly talk to developers about how to connect this indicator to a custom strategy. Developer Guide, Connecting MLEngine to your strategy. Now let us switch hats and talk as NinjaScript developers. In this section I will describe a simple, practical way to wire MLEngine into your own strategies. I will also briefly show where the engine stores its data files and how repeated runs can gradually improve the quality of the models. Step 1 is to prepare a base signal series and the engine field, and to wire the engine to that series. Inside your strategy, declare a series of double values that will hold your raw entry logic, and also declare a field for the MLEngine instance. In state.dataLoaded you then create your base signal series, any supporting indicators you need such as moving averages or price action filters, and instantiate MLEngine by calling it with base signal as the input and choosing the parameters you want. Step 2 is to add the additional data series that MLEngine expects. In your strategy state, configure, add a 1-tick series and a daily series. This ensures that the indicator and your strategy see the same multi-time frame context. Step 3 is to make sure you skip bars until there is enough data. In on-bar update, when bars in progress equals 0, first check that the primary series, the added series, and your base signal have enough history for your logic and for the engine, taking into account any signal offset bars you use. Only after this early return block should you start reading and writing signals. Step 4 is to compute your base signal on each bar. Still in on-bar update for the primary bars in progress, calculate your own entry condition. For example, you might assign +1 for a long setup, -1 for a short setup, and 0 when there is no signal. Write this value into your base signal series at the current bar. You are free to implement any logic here, including higher time frame filters or pattern detection. Step 5 is to use the ML signal output in your entry logic. In on-bar update, after you have written the base signal and passed the initial checks, read the current value of MLEngine.ml signal at index 0. If it is greater than 0 and you are allowed to enter long according to your money management rules, you can call enter long. If it is less than 0 and your rules allow short entries, you can call enter short. You can also combine this with a Boolean flag like use MLNET, where you switch between using your raw base signal directly or the filtered ML signal, just as in the example test strategy. Step 6 is to manage exits and risk as usual. MLEngine does not impose any specific stop or target behavior. You can use your existing stop loss, profit target, trailing, or time-based exits. The only role of the indicator is to provide a smarter gate for entries based on learned probabilities and metrics. Step 7 is to be aware of how the engine persists its learning between runs. When you run backtests or live trading with your strategy, the engine saves its training data and model files for each instrument in a dedicated folder, so you can see the structure of CSV data and model files that are being updated over time. If you restart the platform or run the same strategy multiple times on more historical data, the engine reuses and expands this dataset, and you can often see that the ensemble metrics and backtest results improve from run to run as more history becomes available. Finally, remember that many of the indicator parameters we discussed earlier are available when you instantiate MLEngine from your strategy. You can expose them as NinjaScript properties on your strategy so that you can optimize them in the strategy analyzer or configure them from the UI. This lets you build flexible auto strategies where traders can control both their base logic and how the machine learning engine interacts with it, all without touching any of the internal model code. That wraps up the overview. In the description below you will find the ASF pack link with the 14-day trial, as well as the documentation link with more technical details and examples. Thanks for watching, and I wish you disciplined and data-driven trading.